Okay, folks, we're going to do some third eye practice right here. And what I want to do is give you a little bit of history. What you're looking at right here is you're looking at where I live, and if you take a look at the trees, I'm going to show you what we're going to do here in just a second. What I want to talk about first is I want to talk about my experience last year when my vision changed. You know, if you remember in The Matrix, for example, when Neo became one, if you remember, when he looked down that hallway, all the walls and everything like that, they looked like code going down it. And that was because he was in a matrix that was digital, computer-based, whatever. Well, we live in a matrix also. We live in a reality that we think is physical, but it's not really physical. We actually live in the mind. We live in the mind of the universe. It's a different type of fractality. We don't see ones and zeros. Instead, what we see is something different. Let's take a look at hermetics real quick. In hermetics, we see that one of the first things that we learn about is the mental universe. And the axiom on that is the universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. So if you can imagine that the whole universe is a mental creation, our physical reality is a mental creation. Imagine that we are the thoughts of the mental universe, because in hermetics what it talks about is that physical reality is created through divine thought. So there is a consciousness that we are a part of. Now, we are an extension of that consciousness. Now let's imagine, for example, that we are divine consciousness, this universal consciousness that exists all over the universe, and we want to solve a problem in order to expand our own consciousness. And so what we do when we think of a problem, we think of that problem, it's one, but then all of a sudden we branch that problem into many different scenarios in order to bounce the issues around on each other. And so what we've done is we've created duality when we did that. It all branches out, and you can imagine all these different perspectives, these different viewpoints, everything, they bounce off of each other, and all of a sudden they come to an answer. That answer is when it returns to one again, and it expands our consciousness. So imagine that our physical reality, imagine that we are simply the extension of divine thought, where we are all of the different perspectives. Even though we're individualized at the moment, we are these different perspectives of divine thought branched out into many. Our physical reality is not what we think it is. People think that it is, but it's not. People tend to externalize everything. But once you realize that we are all part of this divine consciousness, this divine mental universe, and we all realize that we're a part of it, then it changes your whole perspective. Now, I will warn you, the Matrix does not like it when I put videos out about this specific topic I'm about to show you, because it really does cause an expansion in consciousness. I've had people email me before after I put videos out like this telling me that they've gotten weird phone calls, that people have knocked on their door, and they opened the door and there was no one there, just really weird stuff. So I'll let you know, the Matrix typically does not like this. So copy this video and put it out. Let other people see it, because this will really help you expand your consciousness, I think. Let's go back to what we were looking at here. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you here in comparison to what you're looking at in these trees, and what we're going to do is, since the universe is fractal, when you're looking at a hologram, it's always helpful to look at the hologram from far away first, because let's go down to about 6%. When I look at it this far away, what it helps you do is it helps you see the larger encompassing images, and then when you zoom in closer, you can start to see, just imagine that you are looking at somebody's bodily structure, and then all of a sudden you zoom in and now you can see their cells. You zoom in a little bit farther, now you can see the atoms and so forth. Well, that's what we're going to do right here. This is like we're looking at a section of somebody's body, and then we're going to zoom in and we're going to take a look at the cells, and then we're going to zoom in farther and we're going to take a look at the atoms and so forth and so on. And so what I want to show you that's very interesting about the correspondence here is, this is an example of a neuron. Now when I made that that series on my last channel called Decoding the Universal Matrix, the first thing that I saw when I started seeing all these different things where I saw neurons everywhere, and now I know exactly why, because I was looking at code that makes up our reality. It's all made up of these. Now, of course, you have to look into nature to see it, but it's made up of things that look a lot like neurons. Okay, these eyes that you see here in the middle, if you actually look at a neuron, it looks just like an eye in the center of this thing, and they branch out. Let's take a look at another one real quick. These are also examples of neurons. If you take a look at that old series that I had out called Decoding the Universal Matrix, you'll see that I was pointing these exact same things out. What you're going to notice about it is the different shapes. This is what our reality looks like. If you start using your eyes to see the stuff correctly, you'll notice that everything in our reality has this look. Everything fits together like a jigsaw puzzle that has these basic shapes. Let's take a look at one more real quick. The basic shapes that I'm talking about are these basic shapes. You have the this one that looks like the parallelogram. You have this one right here that you see a lot in nature. And then you have the one like the triangle that I just showed you. And what you're going to notice is when you start looking into nature, you're going to see the same thing. What you're also going to notice is that it just so happens that in the middle of all of these different things, you're going to see eyes. So, well, let's do something real quick. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you the same thing that you saw in this picture. We're going to find that the mental creation of the universe, our holograms that we look at, are made up of shapes that look a lot like what you see right here. Okay? And if you notice when you look at trees, they already have that branched look about them. But now we're going to show how these holograms are put together. Once again, make sure you spread this information. So what we're going to do is we're going to back off on this thing a little bit. Oops, not zoom in, but back off. Okay, and you notice we can see some shapes offhand. I can see a shape right here that looks like a parallelogram, kind of. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line around that. We're going to see how this works when it all comes together. And what we're going to do is we're going to colorize that. And we'll just leave it that color. Okay? And we're going to find another one. The other one that I see is right here. Okay? And basically that looks like a large triangle. And we're going to colorize that also. Okay. And then I see, let's zoom in just a little bit more now because we need to see a little bit more of it. And you can see what I've done. Now check this out. When you already notice this, you already notice that if you take a look at this thing, right in the center is where you see something different. They look like eyes, okay? Or they look like the center of the vortex that exists right there in the center of that thing. And so what you find, you can keep zooming in as much as you want to, and you can continue to find these types of shapes all over the place. Let's take a look at these branches right here. That's a really good place to take a look. I want you to notice something about them real quick. Let's draw one right here, which is what we see. Now, the way this universal matrix tends to work, there's one right there. Whoops. And we're going to go ahead and colorize that. Notice the eye in the middle of it. There is there's one on each one of these branches you'll find. Like here's one here. Let's go ahead and make a couple more for you, and then I'll let you experiment with this yourself when you get. Here's one right here. If you take a look at this. And we'll colorize that. Now, some of this may be up beyond some of you if you're not willing to accept this kind of stuff yet, but I can tell you that with my experience, this is the way I see things as jigsaw puzzles a lot of times that are all put together. This is the way this universal matrix seems to be put together. And you can keep doing this over and over. If you notice, there's a hole right in the middle of every one of these things, right in the center. Right here, if you look, okay. If you look right here in the center, you see it's darker. Right here, you see it's darker. Right here, you see it's darker. It's right in the middle, and right here, same thing, and right here, you also see the same thing. Now, this just doesn't apply to trees. It applies to pretty much anything in nature, and it seems to be that the way that the light hits it causes it to do that. But you find this thing all over the place when you take a look in nature. And so I wanted to show this to you because if you start paying attention more, if you walk outside and you look at your trees when they overlap, no matter how you look at them, if you notice, for example, notice the way these tree limbs right here, they're overlapped this area back here. Let's take a look at that real quick. This area back here, which tends to look a lot like kind of a square right here. Alright, we're going to go ahead and color that, colorize it. Notice that the trees are overlapping it so that you can only see the behind part. But it doesn't really matter because it's the way that you're looking at it. But I want you to notice that when you zoom in on it, this very center part right here has a hole in it. Okay? And so it didn't matter that these were in front of it. It's just because that's the way we're looking at it. And it has the effect of like you're looking at neurons all the time. Notice there's the hole that I was talking about in the center here. There's one here. And when you start looking at the parallelograms, they have, like, for example, here's one right here. You can tell by the light differences. Okay? And we'll just go ahead and colorize that. Okay? And so you have this effect that ends up happening to where they look a lot like neurons, all put together all over the place when you look at stuff in nature. And you start seeing things that look like eyes all over the place and stuff like that because that's the way nature's hologram, our physical reality hologram, that's the way that they form the holograms that we see. When we look out into nature and we look out everywhere, that's the way it's all formed. Trying to find another good example for you. I can see them all over the place, but I want stuff that you guys can see very. Here's an easy one to find. Okay, you notice this whole tree right here, shaped like a triangle. And it's over and over and over again is the kind of stuff that you see. And they end up looking a lot like neurons. Because the universe is mental. See? The universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. Always remember hermetics. When you're thinking about the way things work, when you're thinking about the way things look, and when you're thinking about a consciousness perspective, even when you think about everything in your body, the way that you think, and the way that, just remember that everything on your body is a microcosm of something larger and a macrocosm of something smaller. And that includes the way you think about things, everything, you know. And usually there is a physical to mental correspondence. For example, seeing neurons physically, but yet it's also a consciousness perspective because it's in the mind of the all. See, there's a correspondence there. So I want to bring this to you guys. I hadn't put this out in a while, but it is important. Y'all take care. Remember to copy it. Talk to you soon.